Hey everyone, welcome to Two Car Pros. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to show you how to do a power steering flush on any vehicle that has hydraulic power steering. Now you might have noticed we're not in the shop right at this moment. We're kind of in a little bit of a transitional period, but if you stick it out with us, I promise you'll be rewarded. We have really big things coming up, but our content shouldn't be affected, just the intros and outros for a little while. So you want to do this service basically whenever you want to replace the power steering fluid in your vehicle, and that is going to differ from vehicle to vehicle, and that's something you need to look at. A good rule of thumb is about every 50,000 miles or so. I don't really like to give out definitive service intervals for something like this, just because what I do is look at the fluid. If the fluid looks old or smells a little burnt or isn't quite as pink as it should be, then it's time to replace it. That's the way I like to do it. So this is a pretty straightforward, easy thing that anybody could do in their driveway with a catch pan and maybe someone to help them start the vehicle or turn it back off. Towards the end, I showed that the vehicle needs to be in the air, turning the tires left and right while the vehicle's on. That is integral, but you can leave the wheels on. I just happened to have mine off because I was replacing some brake components, and it was just easier to do it that way. But you can totally do it with the wheels on. But you just want to make sure that the wheels don't have any weight on them when you are going left and right and lock to lock and stuff like that. So I want to bring that up. You'll see that basically at the end of the video. So there's a few basic components of a hydraulic power steering system that you should be made aware of. There's always going to be a reservoir. That reservoir is always going to feed down into the power steering pump. That power steering pump is going to have a high pressure line with metal fittings on it that feed into either your power steering box or your power steering rack. That part's irrelevant. Then after the energy of the power steering fluid has been expelled into the system via the rack or the box, it's going to come out of the rack or the box in a low pressure line, and that will usually just have a really basic hose clamp on it. It's never anything crazy substantial like a big fitting you'd need a wrench to take off. It's going to be something lighter duty because it doesn't need to be. The fluid pressure has already been relieved inside the power steering system at that point, and right then is where you want to take it off. Sometimes it'll go to a cooler, sometimes it'll go right back to the reservoir. Mine happens to go to a cooler that makes it pretty convenient, so you just need to take it off of that side, and that's what we're going to jump into. So with all out of the way, let's go ahead and get to it. So here is on my 2005 F-150, but if you have hydraulic power steering, you have a power steering reservoir, and it looks something like this. Sometimes they'll have a little picture of a steering wheel on it, and we can open that up. And this is a teeny bit low, not too bad though. And basically we want to take all the fluid out, and sure, you could probably get a turkey baster or a little pump down in there and suck out all of the fluid or whatever. But that sounds terrible, and you're not getting all the fluid out of the rack or the box in the power steering system or the pump. So it'd be nice if the thing had a pump on board. Well, it does. We're going to use the power steering pump to our advantage. So I'm going to tell you the order of operations because I only have one camera, and I want to show the exact moment when you can turn the vehicle off. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove one of the cooler lines on the bottom. I'll show you that. And then we're going to turn the vehicle on. And then while it's doing that, we're going to have a funnel up here, and we're going to be adding our ATF. ATF or power steering fluid are the same thing. They're hydraulic fluid. So this is specific to your car. Get the one that matches your vehicle. This is a Ford. This is the correct Mercon 5 for this vehicle. Look that information up. Don't think it's interchangeable. It isn't. So what we can do is go ahead and place our funnel. So now what we're going to do, because I can't really get anything down in here to suck up any of the fluid or whatever, we're going to take one of the cooler lines off, start the vehicle, and drain this entire reservoir. And then once that's drained, we're going to turn the vehicle back off. So under my truck here, you can see this. And what this is a heat exchanger. This is a power steering fluid cooler, and you can interrupt it here after the cooler, which is where I'm going to do, right here. So you can interrupt it here, which is what makes most sense to me, or you can do it up kind of where the reservoir is. But this seemed a lot easier, and it's closer to the ground. So what I'm going to do is remove these clamps, and you can always tell which side's going to be the return side because it is always affixed with clamps instead of like a fitting that you have to use like a line wrench to get off or something. Pull this line off, and ATF's going to spill out. There we go. That's what you want to see. That looks amazing. And what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take a length of hose and put it on the bottom of the cooler and run it down to our catch basin so it doesn't make a big mess. And now what I'm gonna do is, with nothing attached yet, is this line right here on your right side of your screen, that guy, is attached to the bottom of the reservoir. So what you can do is take some ATF and put it in the reservoir, and that is going to, flush any kind of contaminants or dirt out of your system without having it run through your power steering system. Pretty cool. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a vacuum cap, link down below in the description. I'm just gonna stick it in the reservoir side, so that way when we add fluid to the reservoir, it doesn't just dump out the bottom. So I have some 3/8 fuel line, link down below in the description. That just slides right over, very nice. And then we can stick this tube into our drain basin and we can watch it change colors. All right, so what we're gonna do next, before we even start the truck, is I'm gonna fill up our reservoir all the way to its full mark. There we go. It is right here on our reservoir. A little tough to see, but that's okay. Take my word for it. It's about right there. We can add a little more. Perfect. What we can do now is start our vehicle and watch the fluid change colors. So I'm gonna have a helper, not yet, but in a minute, we're gonna have a helper turn the engine on, and then we're gonna work the steering wheel back and forth, left and right, just a little bit. And what that's gonna do is purge both sides of the power steering fluid from the box or rack, left and right side. You wanna do that so you get all your fluid out. So with a bottle of your ATF handy, go ahead and start the vehicle. And then keep adding fluid. And watch below. You can see it really coming out. It's really gross down there. Oh yeah, that looks way better down below. We're good. So we've sent about 2 quarts of power steering fluid through the entire system. It is good to go. We can put it back together and fill up our reservoir. So I put the return line back on, put the hose clamp on before the barb so it doesn't leak out exactly the way I found it. Perfect there, wipe that down, and now we can just fill up our reservoir. So you can see our reservoir is basically empty, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up to our max line. There we go. It is right there. Perfect on our max line, very good. And then we can remove our funnel and replace our reservoir cap. Now, over the next couple of days, it might sound a little grindy, the steering might feel a little weird, and that's just air getting out of the system, but keep an eye on this fluid level. You never want this to be dropping and you're driving, a long time or something like that, so just keep an eye on it. So with no weight on the wheels, my wheels aren't even on, we're going to turn the wheel left and right. Yeah, turn it off. Fluid dropped a ton. So we can see after we did that, it dropped to about half, so we need to replace that fluid. This is what I mean by keeping an eye on it. There we go, we're at max again, and then we can start the truck and turn it left and right again. So the reason we're doing this without any weight on the tires is so that way we can purge air out of the system easily, and we're not putting a ton of strain on the power steering system with weight on it. And we can see it dropped again, so we're gonna have to add more fluid. Okay. It's that time it didn't drop so much. There we go, now it's getting quieter. It's quieting down, air's getting out of the system. Now my helper is moving the steering all the way lock to lock, exercising the power steering system completely left to right. And this looks dynamite. Teeny bit more, and there we go. Perfect. We can remove our funnel and replace our reservoir cap. There we go. Awesome. So that is how to do a power steering flush on any vehicle that has hydraulic power steering. If you have hydraulic power steering in your vehicle, this is the way to service it. You are using the power steering pump that comes with your car or truck, to flush all that fluid through. We ended up putting 3.5 quarts through, and the capacity is going to vary per vehicle, so I don't want to give a hard rule on that, but 3.5 quarts through my truck's power steering seemed about right, and you know, it's a pickup truck, so it's going to have more capacity than, you know, like a Honda Civic or something like that. So just keep that in mind when you are doing this. If I were you, I would at least order 4 quarts of whatever power steering fluid you need. And again, you need to look that information up because it might be different. Like on mine, it was a Mercon 5. But if you have a Honda Civic, perfect example, it's going to be different. It might not be a Mercon 5. It's probably going to be, you know, Honda's own variant of whatever. But you need to look that information up. If you are confused on that information, you can head over to our website, 2carpros.com, where an automotive expert will be more than happy to come along and answer that question totally for free. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you next time.